Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Happy Sunday. I hope the weather is better where you are than it is here. Actually, I think it's got a little bit easier, but all afternoon has been horrendous here, so I should probably say if there is anything that happens, power cut, internet connection issues, whatever, bear with us. I'll come back on my phone or reappear. But everything, touch wood, seems good, but I've never done that warning, so if it happens now, it's completely my fault and I completely jinxed it. But I hope you're all well. Thank you for everyone that hung out with us on Twitch last night. I really enjoyed that. I very much needed it as well. I've been having a rough couple of weeks, mental health wise. So if you're interested in gaming and using gaming as a way of escapism, distraction, beating isolation, and finding a peer support community that's around that hobby, then you can find it there at twitch.tv/Joel vs Arthritis. In the last 10 days, we've had something like 1,300, 1,500, I can't remember off the top of my head, live views in 4 streams, which is mad. I think we've had 800 live views in 2 streams in this week. We streamed on Tuesday night and we streamed last night. And last night wasn't even our scheduled night. I didn't turn up Friday. That's on me. Like I say, I've been struggling a little bit. So, but we're always honest here, guys. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Chronic Pain Club. We are ultimately a peer support community and we share stories, lived experience. We create a platform for people to share. There's only some times I can share my story. So we create a platform here for other people to share theirs, whether that be a person living with a condition, a caregiver, which we're always championing here, a patient leader, an organisation leader, policy maker. We've had all sorts. We've had world-leading doctors, researchers, academics. If you want to get involved, then drop me a message, find me wherever it is that you're watching, and get in touch, because at the start of every year, the diary's always a bit empty from about May onwards, especially conference season. And then all of a sudden it goes a bit mad when people have something to promote. So if you want to grab a slot, now is the time. And I've got quite a few news items to get through. So I'm going to quickly say hello to people in chat and then bear with me whilst I rattle down the list of news. So welcome in Nia, welcome in Lauren. Big shout out to Nia and Lauren, who are YouTube mods on this show. So we couldn't do it without those volunteers. So thank you ever so much. Welcome in Amy, great to see you. Great to see Rake. I think we saw you on Twitch last night, did we not, Rake? I think it might be the first time we've seen you here. If I've got that wrong, I'm sorry. Trying to remember everyone's different handles across different platforms is difficult. And obviously when I'm here on a Sunday night, it's a bit more my professional advocacy hat on, and when I'm on Twitch, it's more just me hanging out at the pub sort of thing. Welcome in Cinny. Sai was here minutes before we started, so thank you so much, Sai, for being here early, and also for being a channel member. Sai has been a channel member, guys, for 20 months. 20 months, like, so that deserves a big round of applause, virtual round of applause in chat. And a reminder, if you've never been here before, guys, we have no sponsorship, we have no funding, there's no project behind this. This is just something that my wife and I set up because we wanted to create a platform for people to share their stories where maybe they can't work out all the cameras and the mic and the stream and stuff, where they can just jump on a call, tell their story. We'll do our best to share it as many places as we can on YouTube and podcasts and clips and all that jazz. And that's all we do. You know, we happily do this on a Sunday night. And this community, guys, there's a number of people in this community. Cinny's one of them. Nia's one of them. I don't know, Snuffle's with us tonight. Have gone on to then create a charity. And all these sort of amazing things have happened. So So yeah, all off the back of just having a peer support community that started sharing their stories on a Sunday night. So those people like Si, to get back to my original point, is that we wouldn't be here without them. You know, we obviously fund all the equipment and everything, but the people you saw, and I'm going to give them a little shout out now. Let me just find it, the correct caption on screen, because I've got hundreds of them. There we go. So those people rolling across the bottom of your screen now are our YouTube channel members, where they pay a couple of pounds a month to support us, and that's it. We get no other funding. That is it. So a massive thank you to Saduki, Kevin, Saduki again. Saduki is the same person. He's got 2 memberships. I'm pretty sure they know this. I did warn them in case it was a mistake. And Si and Lauren. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you. You are single-handedly, or 5 times single-handedly, keeping us afloat. So thank you so much, and a massive thank you to all of our guests that come on and give up their Sunday evenings to do this in their free time for nothing on Sunday evenings. In an ideal world, it'd be amazing if we could compensate our guests. We're not there yet, but maybe one day we can, because my guilt will always eat me up that we can't do that yet, as somebody that campaigns a lot for patient experience, expertise, the value of lived experience. I'm always very uncomfortable that our guests do this happily for free, but maybe one day we can compensate them. So thank you to everyone that's joining tonight. Farmer, trader, haven't seen you on YouTube before either, so thank you very much. Welcome in, Paul. Feels very weird to call your parents by their first name, but you kind of have to do that when you're in presenter mode. Welcome in, Stephen. Oh, hang on, what's happened here? Who's gift subbing? Who's gift subbed? Si just gave 5 memberships to people in the channel. So if you're one of those people, London Girl, Stephen, Nia, Cinny, Yvonne, I'm going to say Yvonne because I know that's who that is, and you are watching, please do give a thank you to Si. Enjoy the emotes, enjoy the perks of that. You get access to a Discord channel as well, where I share sort of like sneak peeks of guests that are coming up and all that sort of thing. Yeah, massive thank you. You're a hero, Si. Thank you. Really appreciate it. After last night's stream and that, you're going to make me emotional. Right, I've got news to get through, so I've got to get my professional hat on. A couple of things. The Chronic Pain Club's not going to be around for a couple of weeks. In February, from the 10th to the 14th, I'm actually, of all places, going to be in Kigali in Rwanda. Massive thank you to the NCD Alliance that have invited me over there to their Global NCD Alliance Forum. Never been to Africa before. It's an amazing opportunity to advocate in a different continent that comes along rarely for people that are independent like me. So a massive thank you to the NCD Alliance. There is a potential that I could now do a Chronic Pain Club next Sunday. So if anyone's watching this who is either from the NCD Alliance, knows somebody from the NCD Alliance, it's more likely for you LinkedIn viewers that are watching this, or are attending that event, who would like to come on next Sunday and join me to talk about that, please do. If not, I'll just turn up for half an hour and waffle about what I plan to do with that event. So thank you for your patience for the next couple of weeks, but when I'm traveling because of arthritis, you'll hear a lot about that tonight. I don't tend to travel the weekend before and after. The weekend before because I want to spend it with my family, and the weekend after because I'm broken, absolutely broken from travel. So that does mean that we're going to have like 3 weeks where the Chronic Pain Club won't be around, but there'll be lots of videos, clips. I'll be taking my camera with me. We'll be doing some little live streams if we can get connectivity and everything. So keep an eye on that. Follow the YouTube channel so you get updates when new videos drop. And that's the plan for the next couple of weeks. We've also got some amazing guests joining us. Just to pick a few names, we got Ella Balassa who's coming, who's an amazing advocate. I'm amazed when her name dropped into my inbox. Obviously Ben's joined us tonight at a very short notice as well, so I really appreciate that. As if we're going to be back again, the International Axial Spa organisation. Jamie Nicole's coming back by popular demand in a couple of weeks. So lots of people coming up. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel. I'll let you know who that is and when they're coming. And before I lose my voice, I should probably shut up and bring our guest in. So thank you for that very long intro, guys. Thank you, Si, for the love. Thank you for all the people I've missed in chat, Selby and everything. There's lots of people coming in. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. And yeah, let's get stuck into our conversations. Let me just kill the music. Let me load up the screen. So chat will be off for this, guys. It keeps our guests safe. It stops somebody coming in and ruining a video with an inappropriate comment, etc. Please keep your comments coming in chat. I will feature the best ones on screen. We can't promise that we'll acknowledge them, answer them, etc. But please do keep them coming so I can bring them in on screen as we go through the conversation. So on this episode of the Chronic Pain Club, or the podcast, if you're listening to this back at a later date, we are joined by Ben Sewell, who is a man who not only lives with arthritis himself, but also has identical twin daughters who both live with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Ben, welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the show, giving up your Sunday evening to join us and share such a personal story. I hope you're well.
Okay, thanks. Is everybody else okay?
They're very lively. People that are joining us in the live chat. So I love it when we've got lots of conversation going. So yeah, we'll try and feature as many comments as we can as we go through the conversation. So obviously we're here tonight to talk about arthritis and how it obviously has a huge impact on your family at multiple sort of touch points. I couldn't think of a better term. I'm still in work mode. But before we get to that, maybe if you could tell us who is Ben, a little bit about yourself, what you enjoy, what your hobbies are. So these stories are always a lot more powerful when we can understand the people behind the condition. If you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Ben. I'm a husband, a father of twin girls, identical twin girls. I enjoy spending time with family and friends. My favorite go-to place, if I can get away, is the seaside or somewhere hot. The things I like doing outside of work is a little bit of exercise, not too much, but then kind of resting, tinkering with technology and learning new things. And in my kind of work and professional kind of hats, I work in digital. I've worked in lots of health organizations and currently work in a health charity. So that's a little bit about me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. Like I say, because I think it just adds that context to the impact before we sort of focus fully on the disease. So do you want to tell us a little bit about maybe your family, your daughters, obviously as much as you're comfortable with, and then we'll talk about the experience of how sort of arthritis came into your lives.
Yeah, so I was I'm obviously I've got twin daughters who are 12 now. Just started secondary school, so that's a busy time. I think I'll just kind of share this.
We seem to have lost Ben for a second. Bear with us. He'll come back, I'm sure. He mentioned earlier when we were talking that his daughters are in the middle of playing games and things around the house on the tablets and stuff. So that might have something to do with it. Like I say, there is also a storm going on in the UK at the moment. So hopefully Ben will be able to rejoin us shortly. When we done this earlier, it was a fairly quick change around. So let me see if I can bring him back in. There we go, Ben. You're with us. Right. Yeah, you froze there for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. So as I've mentioned, I've got twins who are in year 7 at school. It's a tricky time, obviously, the transition period from prime to secondary school. I try my best to support them to live a normal life as possible. But yeah, I've had a roller coaster of arthritis with starting off with my daughters and then myself most recently. So yeah, it's kind of I've had to learn a lot fast. So it's been a roller coaster. But yeah, I always try and see the positives of things and try my best to improve and contribute where I can. Because I think that's the thing. What I've learned over many years is that the more you learn, the more you talk about it, particularly talk about and sharing stories, it just makes it better. And there's a whole range of organizations who can help you. I think in the early days, it does feel a bit of a lonely place. And it doesn't have to be like that if people can and feel comfortable talking about and sharing experiences as well.
Yeah. And it also helps people like me as I advocate, because I'm well aware that as somebody that grew up with juvenile idiopathic arthritis, which we'll be talking about a lot tonight, my experiences back in the 90s are probably very different to what they are now. So by hearing these stories, it helps people understand the current situation and where the pain points are and where the focus needs to be. So perhaps with that said, maybe this is a good point for you to sort of explain how you first how did that first onset? Was it both your daughters, was it different times, and what those sort of experiences looked like? And feel free to take as much time on this as you
Yeah,
like.
absolutely. So, as first experiences, as it were, and we didn't know until later, was we're on holiday. So we're on holiday at the seaside in our country, and one of the, I suppose it's a benefit of having twins, is you can compare. You can see one child, going off doing things, and the other one's in trouble. So it was about, I would say, somewhere between like 18 months to 2 years. It was something like around that time. And we noticed that that's when obviously walking and things like that happened. What we noticed is that Evie was, kind of walking around doing things as normal, and then, at times Maisie was in pain, and what we, a bit of a surprise. So we went to the out of hours GPs actually at the seaside, and yeah, the kind of first experience was yes, it's a viral infection. Have some ibuprofen, and everything's fine. So we thought, okay, no problem. So we, took the ibuprofen and absolutely fine. And then a couple of weeks later, the same type of pain came back, and we sort of started to think this is not right. We did a temperature check, and we noticed that Maisie's knee was really swelled up, quite puffy and red. So I went to our local hospital, so where we live, near Barnes in South Yorkshire, and went to A&E. Similar thing. Oh, it's a viral infection. Have some drugs and go back, kind of thing. And it happened again, and we thought, hold on, this is not right. This kind of keeps going away. Now, what we didn't know at the time, which we did once we got to the right place. So we went back to the A&E department, through kind of 111, and look, it's the third time we've been here, sort of thing. And we got through to the right person, who then really looked at the kind of swelling patterns and the repeat of this, and pretty much said, we think it's something you're going to have to see some specialist support for. So we had the option of getting either ambulanced over to the children's hospital, or just kind of driving over. And obviously, because we can drive, I thought, well, might as well do that. So then I went to Sheffield Children's Hospital, which just cannot praise them enough. They're my kind of lifeline with all this.
Brilliant.
So I went to the Children's Hospital, and we were passed around between the kind of bone department and the rheumatology department. So to start with, we had a procedure called an aspiration of the knee. So what that means in kind of normal language is they drained fluid out of the knee. So to everybody who's watching, if you can, and this is a crude example, but if you were to, when you're cooking a turkey and you put the pin in and the juice comes out, it was that in a knee.
Yeah.
So we had that drained, but then we were really pushing for, well, is there something else? Is there something else? Because we just needed to know. Now, obviously, we started Googling, which is a terrible thing. You Google everything, and the worst possible information comes. And obviously, we from the short information we could get, it was right. This is pointing towards a bone problem, potentially arthritis. Now, what was lucky is we managed to get one of the on-call rheumatologists to talk to the bone department. They had a chit chat, and then this is where we really got certainty that there was something going on with Maisie's joints. So at that point in time, then we went to see the rheumatology team, and they checked all joints and found multiple swelling. So it wasn't just a knee; it was ankles, it was toe joints, finger joints. So soon after that, we were booked in for some steroid injections. So this was a general anaesthetic. So obviously, when you've got a small child, all this is quite scary stuff, So me and my missus were quite stressed out about all this. But anyway, so they kind of reassured us and told us a lot of things. But then obviously, telling us then as parents that right, the condition is kind of child arthritis, or juvenile idiopathic arthritis, which again I got to learn. Nobody knows why it kind of comes about. And what was it? Yeah, so the first diagnosis, what we got, it was polyarticulate, so it was 5 joints or more. And then obviously we then got to start to learn about, well, because of this now, you're going to have regular medicines, including methotrexate and other injections. So that was a bit of a surprise, obviously trying to look after your child with this. But anyway, so we had his injections, and then we were then on to the kind of monthly monitoring. So trying to get blood tests with a small child's all right. It's a challenge. And I remember one of the experiences I've got, which are quite a haunting experience, but it does kind of, I always think about it now and again, is when they're trying to have a blood test first, because the veins were so small, they had to take blood from in between her toes and I thought if I could swap places, I would.
Oh, as a parent, it's horrible to witness.
Yeah, absolutely that. But I always consider myself, I always think, well, I'm sure there could be others in worse positions, and I think, well, yeah, we've been through a lot, but actually, because we are close to Sheffield, the kind of distance is only an hour away from where we live. I suppose I consider myself and my family to be one of the lucky ones. Lucky families where we can actually get there. It's not too far, but when we've spoken to other parents, they travel from all over to go to specialist treatment centres. So, yeah, the warm-up after the joint injections then was I had to be trained on how to do injections. So one was methotrexate. There was another injection which I had to do as well. We started off methotrexate with tablets, which was, I'll just say, it's an experience. So you had to have a tablet crusher, crush it and put it into yogurts. And if you ever watch those kind of YouTube videos of you trying to feed a dog a tablet, it was like that type of thing, like, oh, I'm not having
many
this.
years trying to come up with ways of doing that.
There was that, and then there was, well, you could try liquid. So this was via a spoon. That was labeled the nasty water, because trying to give that. So once we got into injections, that were okay. But to start with, there was a bit of a fear factor, with Maisie obviously expecting this, and then it coming to the injection day and actually having to inject your daughters is quite, again, it's to start with, it's all a bit of a trauma. You've got to learn about these things. You've got to learn about, if you spill the methotrexate, what do you do? If you miss a dose, what do you do? What impacts has it got in other things or in other activities? If they've got a cold, what do you do? Because her immune system's lower, obviously, whilst on these treatments. So we've had to learn quite a lot. But the good thing is, Maisie's had her ups and downs over the years. I'd say we've had more good days than bad. I think on a good day, which we are on, and I'll kind of come on to this later. On a good day, it's you couldn't really tell. She just kind of gets on with things. I'd say we've had a good patch for the last 6 months or so. On a bad day, it can look like, carrying your daughter about, putting her in a wheelchair and moving her about, and just, not nice. It's, really stiff, not being able to do things. And that feeling of, I always remember her telling me things like this, I can't do that because of my joints. And that's just, soul destroyed as a parent. And then what comes with that sometimes is the support mechanisms around you, which you need to get the good support from. So things like school in the beginning, they just didn't understand. So we had to really try as hard as to say, look, this is a condition. You might not be able to see it all, but underneath that small child is all this going on. So I just want support. And I think we got there in the end, but school to start with it was terrible. They weren't really supportive
And
at
it's
all.
completely unseen, isn't it? I know things have changed a lot since I was in that position, but basically, if I was in a wheelchair, I couldn't go to school because there was absolutely no way of accommodating me. There was no ramps, but they couldn't move lessons from upstairs and all these sort of things. But you don't see the pressure that puts on. Not obviously the child is going through a lot, and socialization is really important and all that at that time. But the parents, the stress that you have of trying to pull all those threads together to give your children what they
felt
need.
like at some point it were almost like a battle. It really was a battle where, so just the smallest thing could mean a lot to a child, so when you get your attendance stats, you know, people who have attended a lot, you get some gold star and a prize or
Yeah,
something. And one of the
yeah.
things that we felt badly done to, I'll call it, is we'd go to medical appointments.
I had a feeling we might have about to lose Ben because his video went and, and then the audio fell shortly afterwards. So we will follow the same process that we did before and bring him back in and see if that kickstarts it. I don't know if it's ready yet. I'll see once he starts moving again in the green room. But thank you for your patience with this, guys. And what we will do, if you haven't seen already, we edit all of these into a video about a month or two after the event. So all of the dropouts, because of connectivity issues, we will chop out so you can watch them in one flow. So let me see if he's back with us yet. He might not appreciate me keep bringing up a still of of him frozen on screen. But I hope you enjoyed this conversation, guys. It's really important that we talk about these things, not just from the child's perspective. And we've had lots of people that have with children in this position gone on to be adults and shared their stories, but we don't get so many people talk about it from a caregiver's perspective. So it's really important that that we're covering these, and some of the things that have been mentioned already that you just don't see, like the school thing. Yeah, I've got very strong opinions on the school attendance awards and how that makes children with chronic illnesses or who are disadvantaged, or or how it sort of feeds health inequity and things like this. But I'll keep them to myself because that's for Ben to answer. But as we can see in chat, yeah, it really doesn't help. It compounds the issue. And as parents, that's really hard. You've got enough on your plate. Like Ben's sharing there, how they're having to inject their daughter, and at that age, tiny daughter. You don't need them sort of things as well. I know what it's like. I've got a 6-year-old, and I hear how much he's perfectly healthy, and I hear how much he complains about someone got an award and he didn't, and why didn't he get an award? Now imagine on top of that, the reason is because of a health condition that you didn't ask for. Life gave you a rough hand, and yeah, that feels very unfair. Guys, thank you for all the chat messages. Let me just bring up chat whilst we're waiting for Ben to rejoin us, because we're quite well versed at this now for filling in for technical issues. It happens on a live show. It's also going to happen, like I say, when the UK is getting battered a little bit by terrible weather. But I think Ben might be with us now. But yeah, thanks for everyone who's joining in on chat. And also, guys, can I just say in the audience, you have been amazing. You all woke up and jumped in chat to give me people to interact with and talk with whilst we filled the gap. So thank you so much. You're brilliant. It's almost like you've been here before and know what to do. So thank you so much. I will bring Ben back in now. Ben,
Hello again.
Well, yeah, you froze, but don't worry. I can
It's
see
all
it
right.
there seems to be this pattern where your video freezes. We can hear the audio, and 5 seconds later, the audio stops as well. So
Yeah,
we've,
the only thing I can guess, the girls have got these new Alexas, which is great. And when you turn them on, I think it acts as a hotspot. So sometimes
okay.
it bounces the internet around. So it might be that. It might be
No,
that.
not a problem. Not saying we
Anyway,
have got a brilliant editor, and Dan will be watching this back in a month or so's time, who will do magic. So thank you, Dan.
it's
He'll
all
take
right.
out all the drops, and it'll seem like a very seamless conversation. So it's not a problem.
It's okay.
So if you could maybe carry on talking about the school element. I know you said how difficult it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
and everything,
yeah,
but
yeah. No problem.
I was just saying to the viewers who are here with us live, how you don't need that on top of everything else, and the impact that can have on you as a parent as well as the child. Like the impact on the
Oh,
child is obvious, but
yeah.
on you as
Absolutely.
caregivers.
So yeah. So a couple of things. So on a kind of children's perspective, there's some things which I feel daughters feel like they're kind of penalised sometimes. So there's the attendance kind of stars that you can get, and you get a prize. Now I know, and they know, that when you're going to a medical appointment, it's authorised absence. There's no doubt about that. So
Mhm.
sometimes we had to rush both girls into the school in the morning to get the morning back as soon as possible to try and get the afternoon mark. But on the attendance awards and things, it was just on the absence. It wasn't the adjusted absence, which I know from. I used to work in education, so I know about attendance stats and things. So sometimes it was felt a bit penalised by through
Mhm.
no fault of their own. they wouldn't get the attendance certificate just for going to appointments. So that was one thing. Another thing is when they're in flare, sometimes they kind of stand out sometimes. So I remember during some PE lessons, there was the magic chair that would come out, and Maisie sat on it like a queen, like royalty. And it kind of makes them stand out. I'll just share one that's recently, but not about Maisie, but it is something I feel quite strongly about. I got to hear that during a PE lesson recently at school, one of the teachers talking about another kid, and pretty much said to this other kid, "Stop being lazy." And I thought, oh, this will trigger me. So I would absolutely. This would trigger me. So there's the stress of being a parent and obviously supporting your child through this. Of a couple of things. So I'm really lucky, and I'll keep everything crossed in this, that I have had supportive jobs from day one, when we've known that we've got to deal with health conditions. So obviously the toll on taking your kids to and from hospital appointments can be significant. So because sometimes it's a blood test, it might be rheumatology afterwards, it might be other bits and pieces. Last Friday, not last Friday, this Friday, I'm getting my weeks mixed up. Because we're part of a research project or a research trial, I was out of the house from 10 until about 2:45. So it's got an impact on, whilst I'm supporting my daughters through this, it's got an impact on their learning and lessons. And it's also got an impact on me, because I've no doubt about it, I've got to make the time up. The work still needs to be done, but I'm lucky that I can flex my time around that to make that happen. But I was talking to some parents, and sometimes it's hard because one of the parents has to deal with all that. So I was speaking to one, it was a sports day actually, arranged by Sheffield Children's Hospital, and one of the parents has actually had to reduce their hours to kind of deal with the appointments. And then there's the other things which, I don't know, sound small, but it can make a big difference. So it's things like the cost of going to the hospital appointment. So there's either public transport or petrol money, there's the parking, there's the, just all that adds up. Now I'm lucky. I consider myself to be, quite okay. Both me and my wife work full time. We're in a good position, but I do feel that is another thing which you've got to deal with, and you learn this as you go along. In the early days, you don't know how much you've got to go to these appointments, but then it becomes a normal thing. So it's and then there's I suppose the kind of mental toll as well. Always thinking about what's going on. So I've got a 5-lane calendar at home with all the appointments in it, because I was doing something. It's very busy.
Yeah, especially when you've got 3 people under one roof with arthritis. That's very unfortunate. And like you say, the mental impact is huge. But I really want to get into that. But I wanted to bring back the thing you said about the fear. The fear of injection down. Because like my experience on that transport one was, I lived 25 or 20 miles away from the hospital. Only one of my parents could drive, and he was working all the time. So whenever I needed treatment, it was, we'll admit you for 5 days, and your parents can pick you up at the weekend. So and people don't experience that fear that every time you go for an appointment, you're worrying, are they going to admit me? Is there going to be another test? Is it going to be another this or that? And that has such a mental impact, and not just on the person with the condition, but I imagine as you as caregivers, parents as well.
And I think just to kind of follow on from that, so Maisie has been in remission and then back through the loop a number of times now. So when you think everything's in control, and then you get the news the arthritis back, that's a soul destroying moment. You feel, oh God, we thought we'd cracked it, going back. And then there's the normal warm up then is steroid infusion, so you're going into hospital on a ward with an infusion drip. So that is, on a daily basis, we had to take it in turns and rotate to, kind of get in, have the, all the checks, steroid infusion, and then there's the flush out afterwards and all that. And then it's just that, I mean, what is good, and I think it's come over time that people say that, my daughters are quite kind of tough and just kind of get on with it. But I think it's had to make them tough by getting on with these things.
Yeah, and what I would say as well, as somebody that's sort of a bit further down as well, is like sometimes it takes time to realize that impact as well. Like, there's definitely things that I think when I was a child I bounced through, and I thought I was okay with it, and then you realize a bit later on in life that that has an effect. Like, that I can't
Yeah.
watch movies where people say goodbye to people because it just reminds me of my mum and dad leaving me, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't see them again for a couple of days on the it's that sort of silly
And
little thing. Well, it isn't
no, no,
silly, you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. And I think, just going back to that, because we do work full time, me and my wife, and we've kind of, I'd say we're in okay jobs. We've got, I suppose, a luxury of 2 cars, so we're all right. But I think it's just that I feel sorry for others who kind of have to really change some of their working patterns and things like that to accommodate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just kind of, I found it useful talking to others about this, because sometimes I think as a man particularly we hold our feelings inside, don't talk about these things. And then I can remember once, I'll just kind of share this with you. So we'd gone through a period of being in remission at the time of working in the NHS. When COVID hit, doing crazy hours to obviously put all the digital systems in and things. And I remember one afternoon, we got the phone call, it's come back. And then my boss rang me afterwards and, how are you feeling? And I told him, and he could just tell in my voice, I just so down and flat. And he said, look, I think you should just have the afternoon off, because I don't think, I know you're not yourself. It was just that, like the life you've just been drained out because you thought you're on the right
Yeah.
track, and then it's back to square one. So it can be cruel at times, but I think it's, yeah, we always try and look at the positives, and kind of how can we improve things. And that's something that we might be able to come on to in a little bit, because I think what I've done and what my daughters do, we try and get involved in as many things as possible, and being part of a number of research projects, which is great. So I think, a lot of these things, what I would like to contribute towards myself and my family, if possible, to, can we support some of the research trials that's going on now, particularly with the, new drugs and medicines, because I think it's anybody who comes afterwards with a diagnosis, if they've got some of the medications that have worked and we can help on that, then it it helps the masses.
Yeah.
So we're part of a research trial now where I think there's not many on this, but we're trialing a drug that has been used for people with psoriatic arthritis in adults, and we're on one of the trials now for this to be done in children. So we're on it's called the P Summit Junior research trial, and we're trialing at the moment a drug, and apologies if I get this wrong, I've been trying to practice it. It's called Ustikimabab. So we're trialing that now,
I'm
and
terrible with
so
biologics
far,
and antigen.
yeah, so
I swear they just add letters onto
but
them with each
yeah,
generation that comes out.
yeah. So we've gone down the adalimumab. We've got that Eve's on that at the moment,
Okay, yeah.
and this new one is, so far it's absolutely spot on. So I consider myself to be lucky to have access to some of these opportunities to kind of test things out, because I think it's just, again, if everybody can contribute in their own way, then just helps.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of maze it, and then I can go on to Eve if you want. So my
Yeah,
other
please do.
daughter.
But I just before we do
Yeah,
that, because I was gonna
go on.
ask you about that. I just want to say thank you for raising that, and also with everything that your family has got going on, to find time to give back and help and move the needle like you are. I think on behalf of the community, and certainly all the people from my platforms and the arthritis links and everything, just a massive thank you, because that takes time with all the stress and everything and the energy that it takes, and living with the condition yourself, which I'm sure we'll come on to.
Yeah,
And you're already raising the same points that I know I do in my advocacy circles in terms of the wider burden of disease. You mentioned
yeah,
transport and time off work.
yeah,
I was recently on reviewing a study where I had to feed that back, where they were like, oh, we're going to give them this many, financial blah blah blah. And then I had to say, yeah, but what if work doesn't support them having extra days off? They've already got all the appointments.
yeah,
Some employers are not going to be able to support you then saying, I need another 20 days off. So yeah, thank you for advocating for that wider burden of the disease, because it is often
yeah.
overlooked.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of so that's Maisie.
Yeah.
So
So how
Evie,
you've gone through all of that? How
yeah.
I can't
So
even imagine what that was like as a
yeah,
parent. I
yeah,
can't.
yeah. So you know, everything's fine, and then this was during COVID. This so Evie started with um, I've got a sore knee to start with. Okay, and then a knee kind of locked in place. I can't describe it. It was just kind of locked and wouldn't. It was kind of locked in the. If you was going to do like a knee up for the football, it was
Mhm.
locked in that position. Um, really tight. Couldn't put any weight on it. So I thought, oh, this is not great. But what we thought is obviously because they're identical twins, there's high chance that one may get the same condition as another. So this time we didn't do any messing about. Went straight through to the children's hospital and got diagnosed. In the beginning, though, we had to go through the same kind of trial and error to get through to rheumatology, even though it was pretty certain that obviously with being identical, the DNA's pretty
You've got
close.
the data
If
this
not
time, haven't you?
identical,
You've got the
you know.
data.
So, but you know, we had to go through the A&E doctors. They did various things. I just bought some crutches straight away to start with because I
Kind of
I can
knew where
lift a
that was.
fair bit of weight, but you know, trying to carry a 10-year-old, it's quite, you know, you get tired
Yeah.
fast. I remember one of the experiences was we're waiting in between departments to do things, and they give you the, you know, the bog standard NHS kind of wheelchairs, the really metal
I
framed
don't. I
ones.
still have nightmares about it.
They
And the underarm crutches they used to give me.
just so I can compare it to when you go to B&Q and you get those flat back trolleys that you put the concrete on and, you know, various garden things
Your
on. It's
paving
like that.
slabs, yeah.
So you've got to pull it backwards because pulling forward's terrible. So yeah, I can remember that experience. Anyway, so one memory that sticks out in my mind was the A&E at Sheffield Children's Hospital's next door to a Starbucks. So I parked the car in the car park. I says, "Come on, we'll have a Starbucks." And then I thought, "Oh yeah, she's not that mobile." So I had to give her a piggyback from the from the car park to Starbucks. And I got there, absolutely in a mess. My face was bright red. I was sweating, absolutely knackered. So yeah, but what was good is obviously we got referred to rheumatology. We're under the same consultants,
Mhm.
and Evie had to go through all the things. So this was course of steroids. I think we had to have 2 rounds. So to start with were tablets, and then was the infusions, um, and then eventually on the, you know, methotrexate. Because because Evie had seen a lot of this with Maisie.
I was going to
Evie
ask,
had a
like, did
Evie
that
had a
make it
fear
harder?
factor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So until she got used to it, the injections were. We were having a conversation for nearly 40 minutes. Like, we're going to do this now. It's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So the big fear thing. Now, one of the things that I think might have improved is that to start with, we had an injection which you draw up yourself with the, you know, the kind of powder and the, you know, liquid, and you draw a certain amount, a certain
Yeah.
volume, depending on their weight. Um, so that was a bit of a thing. And then because some Fridays I had to do either Eva first or Maisie first, and it was which drug in which leg. So I've got as well
Yes.
as my
Again, it's
5 lane
that
calendar, I've
burden,
got a
isn't it?
little book. I've got a little book of which leg, which week, and then I've got to sharpie onto the drugs. It's which person, which leg, which drug. Um, but then it did get a bit easier eventually. It got easier because the drugs then turned into the ones which are kind of pre-filled, you know, just a click type one. And at the moment we're on adalimumab and methotrexate with Evie. But again, that full workup had to happen again and go through the ups and downs. But to start with, we had to get a portable kind of lightweight wheelchair, you know, to push around
Yeah.
for. And then once we got through to the right department, within 6 months, everything was brilliant. You know, real good. So we had hydrotherapy, which is something we've not done with Maisie. So this was
Yeah.
exercise in a swimming pool. Physio were doing lots of work, and I think what was nice to see, although it was a very stressful time, is that all the right health services within the children's hospital all worked together and had the
Oh, brilliant.
MDT meetings to really progress things. And then I suppose I'm really lucky now that they're both in, you know, good health. and can do lots of good things. And last summertime, we were able to go to the climbing wall at Sheffield. And to start with, obviously, it's a daunting experience for anybody. But one of the things that they would tell me is that I don't think I can do that because of my arthritis. I said, well, I think you can. Just give it a go and just try for the first, the easy one first, and just keep going. And eventually, after about an hour, they could do it and straight up to the top. So they didn't kind of, it kind of wasn't a factor because they just had the confidence with it. But one of the other things which happened, so that was arthritis in general, or JIA, and then most recently they've both been diagnosed with the psoriatic type now. So this was because Evie's had lots of skin conditions. We thought it was, a combination of methotrexate, picking up bugs, being on antibiotics many times. This led to some, kind of skin rashes, but the skin rashes were getting worse. So we've been to dermatology now as a regular visit. So we've got rheumatology, dermatology, physio team. But then now it all makes sense. So now obviously we've got the right drugs for the right condition.
Yeah, I was going to say, Adam, we've had you on the.
Yeah. So now we're in control now, as it were. But we've had a lot of things where, again, they just want to live a normal life. So, normal life without anything to look at. But obviously, when the skin conditions happen, that's something that, let's face it, we all know at school it is cruel. So people look, if you're different, people look. So, but luckily, we've gone through all the right treatments. Everything's in control, and just enjoying life as much as we can now. So much so that we're all active doing things. I think after the Christmas eating, I've had to go to the gym a bit more, and the kids come with me now, and we went swimming yesterday. So it's nice that we're in control. But I think one of the things that I've had to learn is, to start with, there's not a lot of information and contradicting information. I can remember one of the things which was a bit of a stressor was when there were outbreaks of chickenpox in school. Oh my God, this was an absolute nightmare. So I can remember the rheumatology team said, right, if there's chickenpox, get ready, because if your children get it, it's bad. So we're like, so every time the chicken outbreak at school, we're having a nightmare. We're thinking, please don't get it. And Evie did get them, but Maisie had to have a certain type of injection to trick her body to think that she's had chickenpox, to kind of train her body in some way to kind of not get them again. So I learn all sorts, and that I would say every day is a school day, always learning things. And but it's a busy time. There's always something going on in that.
Well, it's hard enough with kids anyway. You're learning on the job with kids anyway. So you throw something like that in the mix. And I've lived with arthritis for 30 years now, and I'm still learning. It wasn't that long ago I realised that my biologics lowered my core body temperature, or that my dog shouldn't be having spray up his nose if it's live, because that could put me at risk. And you have a toddler who can't have inject the nose spray, so you have to have your 2-year-old injected for regular vaccines, and that was a horrible. I just felt so guilty for them.
And some of the kind of most recent things which have happened. So at school they do the yearly flu vaccine, and it's a spray up your nose, isn't it? And we say all the time, just don't. We'll sort ourselves out. We're on a list. We'll go to the right place, and we'll have the right one, which is not a live vaccine. Otherwise, it causes havoc. But I can remember one particular year, we went to the GP, and the nurse gets the up the nose thing ready to do it. And I'm like, no, just stop what you're doing. Other things which have happened. Now, I could influence an answer on this, which was great. We weren't on the shielding list when COVID came because of a data recording error in the GP. So they didn't have the condition on the system. So I said, is it system 1? Yes, it is. Right, go on the system, type these things in, press save. Because at that time I worked in the NHS, and that then got us on to the right list. What was the recent one now? We've had a recent one. It'll come back to me. Yeah, there's always, you've got to be on guard. You've got to be on
And
guard of
again,
things.
I know I keep mentioning that burden, but it is, people don't realise the admin that comes with living with these conditions. Then when you've got multiple, and I feel like I'm
Yeah,
conscious of your time, but I feel like as well,
it's all
like
right.
obviously you're a parent, you put your kids first, but at some point I'd love to
Mhm.
hear about then how arthritis became something personal to you in terms of you lived with it. Like where did that fit into
Oh,
this timeline?
yeah. So this were a good one. So we're on holiday. This was it was up in the northeast somewhere, and I during COVID I re I'm going to call it redevelop. That sounds fancy. I did my garden out, so I put some decking down. I did all kinds of, dug out hundreds and hundreds of paving slabs. We did all kinds of things. We built a fence and did all sorts of things. But I can remember one particular day, I were absolutely aching and tired, and my fingers were killing. And I said, I think I've overdone it. But then 2 weeks later, it was still there, and I thought, oh, I best get it checked out. And so I went to the doctors, and they just looked at my finger straight away and said, Ben, you've got arthritis, you've got osteoarthritis, quite advanced. Oh, that's a surprise because I'm only 40 then. I mean, I'm only 42 now, but I thought, oh, that's
No
interesting.
way you're
And then
42.
I know.
I need to get into that gym you're going.
It's all about Nivea and water. But anyway, so it did this thing. It did this a strength test. The doctor. Now it was great because he was, very straight talking. But he did the strength test. He said, right, I want you to squeeze my hand as much as you can. And I tried my best. And I don't know if he was joking or not, but he said, I've seen old age pensioners who are stronger than you, and I'm almost certain you've got osteoarthritis. So I went to the hospital, I got my hands x-rayed and said, yep, you've got osteoarthritis. And, the GP said, you can have some new knuckles if you want. I went, oh, thanks, I'll be all right. So I went to the
Questions you
rheumatologist
don't
team.
hear every day.
Well, I just thought, if they get really bad, then yes. But at the moment, I just cope with it. I think if I keep my mind busy, that takes the pressure off things. Um, I've not got a manual job. Obviously, I work with computers and technology, so I can, I can deal with it. But I can remember I went to the rheumatology team. Now I'm summarising this, but basically, I went there and had a chat with them. Said, "Yep, you've got osteoarthritis, and you know, it's pain relief. It's pain relief that we can do for you. And at some point in time, if you want to get that bad, you might need some replacements. What do you want to do?" All right, well, what can you do for me then? I said, "Oh, you can do some exercises. You can, use some finger putty sort of thing." And so I thought, well, okay. So I just went away thinking, fine, I'll just have pain relief when I need it, and I'll just crack on. So I kind of discharged myself because I just thought, I'm not really getting anything out of this. So, but that was a shock. I was driving. I remember I was driving somewhere, and the doctor rang me, and on speakerphone, my wife's there, and my two kids are there, and yeah, I had to be brave in front of them, but how I died inside, I felt so low because I thought,
Yeah.
oh. But then I just thought, well, it's not the end of the world. I've got to be strong for my kids. But some days I get achy bones, and I can feel if a cold's going to be coming on. But apart from that, I just try and keep active as much as I can. I think I'm quite lucky that I can do that. I always think there's people in a worse position, but then yeah, what that kind of led to is I thought, right, well, obviously optional. How can I help others, and how can I learn more about myself and my family and others? And I think again, I started googling, um, and what I found is that there's the generic stuff on the NHS website available, which
Yeah.
kind of tells you what will happen at some point. But then I was amazed by the amount of things that you could get if you looked in the charity space. So I found a lot of useful information from a number of different charities. And I think that's what I did a talk at work about it a couple of months ago, and that's one of the things. If I could take back time and kind of advise anybody to look for, is that when you're in those early stages and not knowing what's going on, search beyond the NHS websites, particularly in the charity sector, because the advice on there is usually more in depth, it's more accurate and it's more personable. And if you need to, there's things that you can get in touch with people who have probably gone through your story, and they can set you on the right kind of path in a way. And then talking to others, again, it just really helps. And so yeah, I'm part of a number of different things. I've been part of a study called the Impact Study, which is looking at how parents can support the children through, a number of rheumatological conditions. One of the things I enjoyed from that one was talking to other parents about their experiences. And what was great that came out of that in Teams call is that in the early days, very similar, trying to get the diagnosis and trying to get the confidence in what you need to do. That was really strong. And I think some of these things you don't know until you get in the conversations. But now, as I see myself now, I'm a pretty much, I'll help in anything I can. Like you said, it does take a bit of time and effort, but I always think if everybody helps out, then that's how we make things better. It is that.
There's a lot of similarities. I was about to say to you, like, as a dad, I know how hard it is to put yourself first and find time to get the support you need. And then you just come out with exactly the same way I cope with my condition, that, rather than sort of trying to help myself, I'm always a little bit uncomfortable with that. Again, I think I might be a bit of a British male stereotype, but so I then go on and try and help other people. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing. You're just doing amazing things. I'm just this has been a very personal conversation for me. It's been hard for me not get emotional thinking about my experiences for the same, because I have a psoriatic associated JA. So many crossovers. I'm so much admiration for what you do, Ben, and how you cope. And yeah, I think I would you already know this, but just make sure you keep finding time for yourself, because as everyone reminds me, you can't help other people if you're not helping yourself, and it's a hard thing.
Absolutely. I think every now and again, and it is every now and again, I like me time. And what I like doing, get out on my bike, pedal the stresses away, some good music on, and just get somewhere different. I did start learning guitar, but I kind of packed it in a little bit, and I just wonder if that's something I might need to just, kind of pick up again. But I think, because when you're looking after everybody else, at some point in time, you end up either burning out or kind of being, you've got to help yourself as well. And I think another thing which I've not got onto yet, but this might come in time, is the kind of, the kind of emotional support and well-being side for me daughters, because we don't really talk about that. There's the general questions in the hospital, how are you feeling, is everything okay? I know you said, Joel, that it does take a bit of time for that kind of reflection to come, and that's something that's probably going to be a challenge that I might face, kind of to come. But I suppose I'm not saying I can deal with it, but I feel more confident than I would have been in previous years, because every day is a school day. I learn quite a lot. I'm always learning things, and just kind of I encourage them to be honest, and I'm honest with them as well. So sometimes they all know, So today we've been playing a board game, and the kids were messing about with something, and I said, look, just be careful, because my fingers today are killing. And so they understand with me as well. So it's
I find my son, he's only 6, but he knows I'm having a bad day before I am. Like, the amount of times he'll call me grumpus or grumpy, and I was like, yeah, I'm struggling, and like they spot it so quickly.
That could be a thing, I don't know if it's linked to kind of my arthritis or just being busy, because obviously I've got a busy job, busy with my family commitments, and I can remember I went on a course, I went on a mental health awareness course through work, and they've got this thing called the stress container, and it's just when that gets full, at some point, something small could send me into a grumpy mood. Now I try my best to contain it at work. I think, there's I don't think people see it at work, but sometimes the safe space to release it.
Yeah.
I've just got to, if this thing's noticed, I just admit it and get on with it. Really sorry. How do I put things right? But and then I feel guilty about it. Then I thought, oh God, it's happened again.
I'm laughing because I'm half expecting my wife to make a comment in live chat about, remember that when you blew up? So a classic one. Just sorry, it shouldn't be about me, but a classic one just to show you that point. We've got a spaniel. It's crazy, like spaniels are. He goes mad around the house. He ran into one of them air freshener things and ripped the socket
Yeah.
out of the wall. And whilst my wife was in tears of laughter, thinking that's hilarious, there's me like that was the final straw, and it was all because I'd been in pain all week. And you bottle it up, you try to put on that brave face for your kids, and you get through the day job, and then that happening at the end of the week was the final straw. And looking back, it's hilarious, but at the time, I could not see that.
One of the things I can kind of reflect on, and it's something that's only happened this month. So prior to kids, I used to go to the gym quite a lot, and then obviously I had kids, and time was just gone, various things. But what I have started to do this year is to make sure I try and get out of the house quite frequently, because if you work at home and you're in the office, it's some days you can be a slave to yourself, by not kind of getting fresh air and things. So what I try and do now is make sure that I do spend time going outside. I have a walk, and like I said, I've joined the gym, so I try and go a couple of times a week there, and that releases it for me. That's the kind of recharge and that kind of refresh needed. I think that's helping, but yeah, I would say nobody's perfect. I'm definitely not perfect, but I just try and do my best, and touch wood, I think it does make impact somewhere. So we'll just
And I
keep
also think
going and see
talking
what
about this
happens.
stuff, talking
Yeah,
about this stuff as well, hopefully helps other people feel like they're not failing, because we're human.
yeah,
We're none of us are perfect, and we do
absolutely.
live in that world where unfortunately people only show the wins sometimes. So I think it's important that we have, just two men here now talking about, not always being able to control our emotion when we're struggling,
Yeah,
or not maybe being as open as we should. Hopefully just us doing that reaches somebody at some point in the distant future on the podcast or the video, and
absolutely. That I
makes them
would just
feel.
say, yeah, you're definitely not alone in these things. It's reach out. There are a number of different supports, tools, and kind of mechanisms. I told my kids about your kind of channel and some of the things that you've been doing, and I think I messaged you on LinkedIn about this. The kind of comments that they said that there's somebody with arthritis who.
I promise you that wasn't me that killed Ben's feed right when they're about to compliment me. I promise you that wasn't me getting embarrassed and killing the feed. Um, let's just we'll pop Ben back in like we did before. We had a good run there. We had a good run. Let's bring chat in whilst we're doing that. Thank you so much for everyone that's getting involved in the comments. Now's your chance to re-engage with the comment, and then when Ben is back, we'll bring him in to finish that off at the end. But yeah, it is. I think these conversations are important. I'm finding this one a real hard listen, because obviously I live with the same condition as them young children, and and I had lots of childhood experiences, and I also feel really guilty when we talked about earlier about I can see Ben's with us now, so I'll just wrap this up really quickly. When we talked earlier about then the stuff that goes on to happen later on in life, I feel so guilty when I say that to people, but it's true. These experiences are different to what my brother or my sister or whoever had. So it's important to bear that in mind, that these things are a journey, and you do carry some of that baggage with us. But I think Ben is back now. I promise I didn't cut him off because he was about to give me a compliment or something.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, so apologies. There
No,
must
you're
be
fine.
more. There must be more kind of technology being turned on in my house. But yeah, I think yeah. So when I told the kids, I said, look, I'm going to be I'm going to be talking to somebody who's older than you, and I guess a similar age, to me, and guess what? They help people through a number of things, including gaming, and they're like, wow. And then when I said, you've people talk about things through the kind of media of gaming. Of course, my girls love building things in Minecraft. I think it's brilliant, and I think it's just that is absolutely great. And I just think it's just talking about things, finding the right channels to speak to people like you, or people who support things that you're going through. It just helps, because I think, like I said before, in the start, it is quite a lonely place. One of the things I just kind of quickly mention. So one of the things about having twins is sometimes they get labelled as one person. So it's Evie and Maisie, or Maisie and Evie, not Evie or Maisie. So
Yeah.
one good thing is they've always got a friend. But then another thing, which is kind of something that we're trying to make sure that they do now to become more independent, is to find their own kind of circle of friends. And then almost break out into those separate circles. Now, it's fine, obviously, if they've got the same friends, but one of the things that we've been lucky for recently is that we're going on one of the kind of residential weekends through the Children's for Chronic Arthritis Association, so
Amazing charity.
CCAA. So we're going on one of the kind of weekends there in September, and I think what that will give them is that peer support of others with arthritis, which I think is really useful and really good, so they can have the detailed conversations of what it is to be a person with their condition and to kind of share their stories, because they've got each other as peer support, but reaching out to others is really, it's just fantastic. And I know you mentioned in the kind of start of this that there's a lot of good work that is done by a number of different charities, and I just think it's hard in a way that the funding needed to support these great causes is kind of not there on tap, and it's just so I'm really looking forward to that weekend, because I think I hope it'll bring the both girls out of the shell a little bit.
It's for not everything. I know people involved, and I've spoken to people that have been on them, and they're lifelines. It's amazing work that all of the team there do for such a small charity. They punch well above their weight. Wonderful people.
Absolutely. But yeah, I just as mentioned earlier, I just think if I can help in anything, and if people want to speak to me about anything afterwards, just there's just an open door there, because I think it's the more people are comfortable with breaking down the stigma, then the happier everybody will become.
Yeah, absolutely. And my brain is already going 100 mile an hour about things we can do follow-ups. I'm sorry, you might have found yourself more work from me.
That's all right. It's all right. But yeah, I'm involved. I'm involved with a number of different charities. I'm part of the Juvenile Arthritis Research, our JAR kind of project. I'm on there kind of, the VIP panel. So sometimes I get involved with activities there. I'm involved in all kinds of things as and when. So it's just, I go looking for such things. I actively, when things come about, I try and get involved. So yeah, I might bump into yourself and others through my, kind of future endeavors, shall we say. And it's just, just keep up the conversation, and it is a fight, so keep up the fight. And I think my what I'd love to see, I'm not sure if I'll see it in my lifetime, is the research that's happening at the moment. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's just how what I'd love to see is the the availability of drugs and medicine just become kind of more widespread. And then obviously at some point in time, can we find a cure? And that's absolutely, if we can do that, that'd be fantastic, because there is a lot of things that people don't know, the kind of impact of what this means, in terms of the stats of people being off work, how many people it impacts. I think until you start to look at that information, it's hidden, isn't it? It's
it is.
It's tricky.
And again, it's that wider burden that keeps coming up. But I think anyone that is watching this from a psoriatic point of view, really promising stuff. That new wave of they're not anti-TNFs, they're biologics, but they target different things, are really promising for psoriatic disease patients. And also, you have got coming down the line as well the new pill form biologics, which, imagine how much easier your life would have been with children, where you're not drawing a needle and injecting, and if you have that option,
Yeah, and I think another thing, which is a bit of it can feel like a postcode kind of lottery sometimes. So I think where I live, it's just an old mining village. It's in the heart of South Yorkshire, I'll call it. It's where the real men went down the mines, mined everywhere. But I'm within an hour's driving distance to lots of hospitals, so I consider myself to be quite lucky. I can get to places quite quickly. I've got my own transport, but I always feel like others might not be in that position. I think but that postcode lottery, depending where you live, what your demographic is, what you've got next to you on your doorstep, what type of person you are, or what type of family you've got, that's got an impact. And I think I suppose I'm proud I live in a deprived area. I'm not bothered. It's kind of made me who I am. It's absolutely fantastic. But I think that equity of in more like affluent areas, or where you're close to things, or potentially on your kind of social economical status. You've
Or
got different
rural,
choices.
like where I am, where we
Yeah,
literally have one
absolutely,
city
and
and 2 counties.
yeah, and
So,
it's just it can feel unfair. It can feel unfair, I
yeah.
suppose. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones. So I, count my chickens and try and look on the positive
I
side all
think,
the time.
I think anyone that's watched this tonight, Ben, has got that you're a very positive, upbeat person. I think that
You've
must
got to be.
play
Gotta
a
be.
big role. I know we all have our moments, trust me, and we've talked about being human and everything. But yeah, I think that outlook is like I swing wildly between optimistic and pessimistic, and I always talk about how my mental health also linked to those experiences and that condition and everything. So thank you. I'm sorry we've overrun.
It's
I'm
all
sorry we
right.
had
It's no
some
problem.
technical issues. For anyone that was watching this live, we'll get them all wrapped up into a nice clean video so everyone can follow without the interruptions. Ben, I'd love to have you back. I feel like we're ready to scratch the surface of what we could have talked about. Just thank you for being
All
a
right.
wonderful guest and joining
No
us.
problem. I'm happy to be back at the right time. I'm sure in due course there'll be other stories that we can share. But yeah, just I've loved being on this, and yeah, if this helps, which I think it has done, then happy to just just be part of things. And yeah, I think it's just if we all can do our bit, like I said earlier, it just gets better, doesn't it? So
Yeah,
it's great stuff.
absolutely
Thank you.
inspirational. Thank you. Love to all your family as well, and thank you for sharing something so personal. I will let you get on with the rest of your evening, but we'll no doubt speak soon. And I suppose last chance. Is there any way you want to tell people where to find you? Sorry, I didn't give you that opportunity. Or is there anything you want to plug?
So I'm on Twitter. If you just search for me on there, I think just in terms of some last minute plugs, if possible, and I'll just take the courtesy here. So obviously, major, can't thank this team enough at Sheffield Children's Hospital. Absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I've mentioned before there's the CCAA and JAR project, and one that I'll just quickly mention, one that's close to my heart and I've learned a lot is Versus Arthritis charity. They've got a wealth of lots of information and do a lot with research. I think it's just there's lots of information out there.
We were so close to getting to the end there without another interruption. We were so close. I think what I will probably do is I will let Ben go there. Rather than ask him to repeat that, we got the audio. If he does reappear, I will bring him back for a quick thank you. Let me bring in chat again whilst we wait. Thank you for your patience tonight, guys. This is a live show. We do it intentionally live to provide peer support so that you guys can talk amongst yourselves on whatever platform that you're watching. With that comes the occasional technical issue, and we accept that. Life isn't a straight smooth road as we've been talking about tonight, so I don't think we should avoid doing it live just because you get the odd interruption, or we've had people join us in cars and taxis and various locations, so it always keeps it interesting. It's just really unfortunate we were so close to send them on their way and it cut at the last moment. If Ben does come back into the green room, I will quickly bring him in so we can all thank him, and I'll share as many of your messages on screen. No worries, Amy, and Carl, my thoughts for what you do at CCAA. It's amazing charity. Obviously, JR projects mentioned, Versus Arthritis has been mentioned. There's loads of resources out there, and they do play a massive part, because like Ben was saying, you go on the NHS website, you are going to get a very clinical, and also sometimes some of that NHS website information actually comes from charities. I know if you look at psoriasis, it does, but when you go beyond that, you get more of a human experience and a human connection. And it's kind of what we try to do here. It's what we do over on Twitch. And that's what we're doing with our new charity, Psoriatic Disease UK, is focusing on peer support. We know there's lots of people out there that are providing vital research and everything, and we're not going to try and do that because there's already that gap's already filled. We're trying to fill that need of peer support and community. Ben just come back, brilliant. Just I was running out of things to say, so let me just bring Ben back so we can have a proper goodbye.
Really,
we were so close. We were so
really
close.
sorry. I'm ashamed to work in
No.
technology, and I've got these home internet problems.
I work in IT, so I know how you feel.
It's all right. Yeah. So I think a bit of a plug. So we said, obviously, I'm on Twitter, anybody can follow me there. Massive respect and, gratitude to Sheffield Children's Hospital. There's CCAA and the JAR project, as we mentioned before, and then just a wealth of activity and information available at Versus Arthritis, and particularly with the research things that they support with. I think it's just, the opportunity is there's lots of organisations that can work in partnership, and if we do work in partnership and get the right level of support, advocacy, and the power in numbers, then we can start to make arthritis hit the right priority levels. Because unfortunately, at the moment, it's not the top of the priority list, and it feels like it's awful. It feels like a competition of what conditions get the priority of the government. And for me, this just, obviously, I'm very selfish. I'd like arthritis to be more up there because it's not at the moment. So it's the power of all of us working together, doing our best in partnership and unity, and together we will beat it and make everything a lot happy for everybody else involved.
That feels like a brilliant place to end it, Ben. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Thank you for staying longer than we normally ask our guests. I really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks and goodbye. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Guys, let's bring the chat back in. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I certainly did. I was quite emotional for me, but like I say, it's been a rough couple of weeks personally. So maybe just hearing about some of those experiences and people, you forget. So I think sometimes you're so busy advocating with your story and your experiences and those around you that you forget that there's so many thousands of people also going through that same thing. And it's important that we hear those stories and those different priorities and pain points and impact. And you take somebody like Ben, there was 3 people in the household with arthritis. I can't, like, when he started talking about the second daughter of getting the diagnosis, that choked me because somebody with a young son, I can't imagine. I've been there with him where he's had to have flu injections because he couldn't have the nasal because of me and the guilt that you feel as a parent. I can't imagine him what it's like after you've gone years of injecting and steroids and drainage and what's the word I'm looking for? Begin with I drip of infusions. You go through all of that, and I know how I handled that badly as an 11-year-old. I can't imagine what it was like with such a young child. And then you get the news that your other child's got it as well. And he does it all in such a positive, motivated kind of way. I think it's important to sort of feel the human story behind that and the human impact. And I know I kept banging on about the wider impact but it is the wider impact of disease. It's all I talk about all year. Like, nobody asks if my wife is okay or how she's doing. And ultimately, if she's not doing okay, I'm not going to do okay because she's my caregiver and supporter and everything else, and recognizes the flags way before any doctor does. We're now like entering this age where patients are having to pick up the phone and ask for an appointment rather than get a routine appointment. And I'm terrible at knowing when to ask for help. I'm always going to think there's somebody worse. I think Ben even used similar language. It could be worse. So when you enter this world of patient-initiated follow-up and removing of routine appointments, the caregivers are more important now than they've ever been in terms of waving the flag for when people need help. So we need to start including them in the care and asking them how they're doing. So I apologize for talking about the wider burden of the disease, but I shouldn't, because for me, I think it's really important. And I don't remember anyone ever asking my parents at any appointment if they're doing okay, and I never asked them if they were doing okay. And I was very selfish back then, and it felt like my world was falling apart. So it's really important to have caregivers come on. And if there is any caregivers watching this who want to come on and talk about it from that perspective, please do. We've shared tens and tens. I think we're probably over about 100 episodes now of sharing these experiences. I'd love to have more caregivers on because I think it's really important. Sorry, I'm ranting. That's not really a rant, is I'm trying to push people into action. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to everyone who joined us on Twitch as well last night. I know that was a bit of a heavy one with me talking about mental health and everything. Really proud of the conversations we start both here on YouTube and over on Twitch. Genuinely very proud. And it wouldn't matter if it was 5 people, 3 people, 2 people, or like we're finding now, hundreds of people. it's amazing. And hopefully it helps people out there. And like I always say, it's not just helping educate and remove stigma. It helps people feel like they're not failing. It helps people maybe get the support they need, or maybe put their hand up and start speaking. As somebody that hid my arthritis whenever I was in remission, that's not a healthy way to deal with it. And maybe I pay the price today with my mental health because of that approach to managing. So I think it's really important that we try to encourage people to talk and share with people they trust. And if they don't have those people immediately around them, then why can't it be us in a digital space? That's what we're here for, guys. Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you very much, Si, for all the comments. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for everybody that was with us throughout. Apologies for the technical issues. That's life. It happens. We will get this wrapped up into a really neat little interview. Thank you to Dan when you're watching this back a month or two from now for the hard work you're going to have to do in chopping that out. Really appreciate it. But in the meantime, when I end this stream, I get lots of people always ask me, can we watch it if we missed it? Where can we find it if we missed it? When I end this stream, it'll go up on YouTube, warts and all with the technical issues, mistakes I've made. I make a lot. That'll all be up there. You can watch it from start to finish, skip through, see the bits that you're interested in, and that will live on the channel under the rerun category. And then in a month or two's time, it's normally about an average of 2 months, we will edit it up into a video and then it'll go out on the podcast. If you haven't seen the podcast, if you prefer to listen rather than watch, I listen to far more podcasts than I ever watch videos because I'm a dog walker. It gives me lots of time to listen to podcasts. Just search the Joel Nelson podcast or Joel Nelson wherever you listen. There is also Joel Nelson out there, a cowboy poet. I'm so fascinated by him. We need to get him on the show one day. If anyone knows Joel Nelson, the cowboy poet in America, that's got nothing to do with chronic illness. I would love to get him on because every time I Google, he comes up. So if you search Joel Nelson arthritis or something like that, Joel Nelson pain, that's quite miserable to think that you're associated with those words. I'm not going to think about that too much. That's the legacy I'm leaving. Dylan's going to say, yeah, if you search for my dad's name and pain, you'll find him. That's how he lived. Anyway, it's probably time I call it a night there. Thank you so much for hanging out. Remember, there's no Chronic Pain Club scheduled for next Sunday. But if anybody wants to come in that represents the NCD Alliance or is going to the Global NCD Alliance Forum in Rwanda in February, they want to talk about that, then please do. If anybody would like me to come on just for half an hour and talk about what that entails and what I'm planning and why the Chronic Pain Club will be gone for a couple of weeks, I'm more than happy to just come and hang out with you guys for half an hour. That doesn't bother me. We do it on Twitch. We won't have a game. You'll just have my face instead, unfortunately. But we can do that. If people feel like they need peer support, then please let me know. And you can find our Discord. I haven't mentioned our Discord. I really should have done that. So before we go, we'll pop that up where you can find, where is the Discord? Have I not got a Discord link? I'm sure I used to have a Discord link. Yes, I've got a Discord link. I just can't find it very quickly. You can find us. Can you find us? There it is. There it is. You got a QR code. There we go. You can scan that or take a screenshot, find it later, where all these wonderful people, Simon, Amy, who else we had in Cine. I'm not going to be able to mention everyone, so I don't know why I started listing you all by name. A choir who might also be known as Lauren on here, Nia. All those people are in our Discord supporting each other and just generally having fun during the week. They're also the people you can find over on Twitch. Go check that out. It might make your day a little bit shorter with whatever you're dealing with. Until next time, guys, have an awesome rest of your Sunday, whatever's left with it, wherever you are. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.